Today we'll be talking about private assets. I'm Alen Mattich, Senior Investment Writer, and this is Shaniel Ramjee, Senior Investment Manager, Multi-Asset. There's a growing interest in private assets. What are they and why are they useful for investors?
Typically, we would think of private assets as equities or bonds or even real estate, but of companies that are private in the sense that they haven't listed on any public exchange. What we tend to see when we look at private assets is companies that are earlier in their life cycle. And that is quite exciting because this is where the large part of their growth occurs.
Public markets seem to be shrinking. Lots more companies are buying back their shares, lots fewer companies are IPOing. Does this represent a pressure on investment managers to go towards private assets?
Because of this buyback issue, because more companies don't need to IPO because of the regulatory burden and the cost of being in public markets. So staying private has meant that the private market ecosystem has grown much more. So for example, private companies are able to set longer term objectives, longer term goals which management can work hard to achieve without wondering what happens to stock prices. They can focus on those longer term goals. More broadly, in the future, we could see companies look to achieve other types of objectives, such as sustainability criteria, where the investor has a sustainability objective or believes that better sustainability will lower the cost of capital for that company or indeed make it more credit-worthy. And that could be beneficial to both the investor and the company. So for an investor, a global investor who wants to diversify their equity holdings, being able to look at both public markets and private markets is a way of diversification, but also a way of accessing a part of the equity world that is growing, not shrinking.
Private companies have the advantage of not having to face rigorous or such rigid regulatory standards. But does that make life more difficult for you as an investor?
Due diligence in the private arena is extremely important. So what we need to understand is when that capital is called, when those commitments are made, what sort of transactions will occur as the investment cycle or as the economic cycle evolves. So we have to have confidence in the style of the management, the philosophy around value creation, and what are the risks involved.
Exits are also an issue, aren't they?
Absolutely. When we think about exits in a robust IPO market, exits are more likely. However, in some market environments, IPOs are more difficult. So you would want to be able to think about expertise in trade sales, for example, that is selling companies to other parts of the supply chain or the value chain, mergers and acquisitions. And that's an interesting evolution, we think, in the next cycle for the private equity space in terms of finding groups of companies to put together that will create a much more interesting new company at the end of it.
You're a Europe-based investment manager. Is there anything particular about European companies that's of interest or is an attraction?
Within Europe, we have a private company ecosystem which is long-standing. We see more and more situations where families or founders no longer want to have such an operational role in these companies, or indeed there's a first generation of professional managers involved in a company that wants to grow. So this is where private equity can come in and help these companies achieve those goals without having to go to the public markets.
As an investment manager for a privately held asset management firm, does that help your decisions and your ideas about investing in private companies?
When we think about the benefits that can be had by looking at the long term, by investing for growth, by not being driven by the short-term machinations of the market, we at Pictet uniquely understand the benefits that this confers. And when we look at private markets and understand how that long-term nature of their investment profile is developing, we definitely see a meeting of minds.
Thank you very much, Shaniel, for this discussion about private assets, the risks and opportunities. And for more on private debt, private equity, and private real estate, please look on am.pictet.